Hey everybody, welcome to the blog. We are trying something quite a bit different today. We're doing a video entry, see how it goes. So the thing that we are working on today is the next step in the tarot card project. So this video is how to convert a tarot card into a Warhammer 40,000 model. So we'll back up a couple steps just in case you found us through, a tarot card search on Google, or this is your first time kind of checking out the blog. We're converting the entire major arcana of a tarot deck into a series of Warhammer 40,000 models. Warhammer 40,000, if you don't know, is a miniature war game. You play with dozens or sometimes hundreds of small plastic or metal figures, and you fight a battle with your opponent over what amounts to like a model train, kind of railroad set. There's, buildings and terrain and trees and hills and all that kind of stuff. And you roll dice and shoot and attack, punch things. So, but what makes this project a little different, we're not really focusing on large-scale armies or, even doing a whole army. Really what I'm doing is translating individual concepts into individual figures that may or may not have anything to do with each other. They're all linked by being personifications of the major arcana for a tarot deck, but that's really the only thing that links them all together. So what we're doing today is the Hierophant, and kind of want to go over some of the details of what we want to focus on for this conversion. First thing got to do is get a base model, and we're going to dive through the bits box to see what we can find. So first and foremost, the Hierophant is a robed male figure. He's typically shown sitting, but we're going to have standing because I don't have really any sitting models and I don't want to sculpt his legs. So I found this old Arcanum model from the Confrontation game. His name is, I'm going to butcher it, Fideus de Basarac. He's got a great look. I don't even know how long I've had this model, but I think he'll be a great base for our Hierophant. Next thing is the crown that the Hierophant typically has. It's a triple level crown. I'm not going to use that imagery for this model, partially because I like this guy's head and I don't want to put a crown on it, and secondly, I'm not exactly duplicating the looks of the tarot cards with these models, so I'm going to skip that detail. Next thing is he is seated typically between two pillars symbolizing law and liberty. And in this case, I'm going to have the things that he's kind of holding be those pillars. First one is going to be this sword that I found. I'm fairly certain this is a sword from the Sisters of Silence miniatures from Games Workshop. I found it in my local game store's bits box, so I'm not exactly sure, but I'm fairly certain that that's what it's next, or what it's from. It's got a great lightning bolt motif on it, which was the Emperor's original iconography that he would use. Next, on his other arm, and symbolizing that other pillar of liberty, is this 3-bell set that I grabbed. This is an old Skaven Plague Priest arm, and it's got 3 bells, and it's Liberty. Hey, the Liberty bells. What do you know? Works out sometimes. The other thing, the card, he's typically holding a 3-tiered staff. And hey, look, he's got 3 bells. So sometimes it works out. You just go searching through your bits box, and you never know what you're going to find. The other thing is not exactly fitting in with the card, but I want to tech him up a little bit. He's pretty medieval at this point, and so to fit him into that Warhammer 40,000 universe, I need some sci-fi tech. So this is an Adeptus Mechanicus Scutari backpack. And then finally, this is for the base. I've got 3 little, if you can see them. If not, we'll look at the base later. We've got 3 little skulls here to represent the what is it? Oh yeah, so it's the key to heaven are at the Hierophant's feet. And so for this guy, we're going to use these skulls to symbolize the three ways into heaven is through the death of the mutant, the alien, and the demon. So, you know, so first thing we need to do is clean all these models. During the molding process, there can be some mold lines from where the two parts of the mold meet. I don't know if you can see that on the model here, but on his jacket, there's a little line. That's where the two molds, met. And the best way to get rid of those, or for a metal model at least, is to take, this is a small little file, and we want to take it and we want to grind down that seam so that his jacket looks like a jacket and not a molded piece of metal. Dun, 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 dun. Alright, so we got that. Next thing is to go all the way around this piece and all of the rest of these pieces and file off all of those mold lines and make sure that they look really nice. So the next thing we need to do is attach these arms to this body. Obviously these aren't the original arms that came with this model, but and as fine as super glue is, we're going to need some more structure to help the plastic arms stick to the metal body. It's a good rule of thumb to use this technique called pinning whenever you're attaching something to a metal piece, whether it's a plastic piece to a metal piece or another metal piece to a metal piece. And for that we use a pin vise here with a little tiny drill bit, and our pin is just a thin piece of metal. This is a lot bigger than the piece I'm going to use, but it's so you can see it better. And what we do is take the pin vise, drill up into his arm, and similarly drill down into the arm, the piece that we're going to attach. Stick a little piece of metal in between the two and glue them together. So we'll do that next. So now that we've got both of those arms ready to go, took a little bit of finagling with the robed arm here, just to cut that elbow joint down so that it would fit with the kind of flow of his shoulders and make sure it looked all like it was supposed to be there. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to put the backpack on. Same process, we're going to pin it onto him. Alright, so we got that there, ready to go. So the next step is one that is really easy to overlook when you're making a model, and that's the model's base. If you do it well, it really can make a model, and a bad base can destroy a model. So for the other models that I've done in the tarot project, it's kind of this destroyed, mechanical, industrial, like really dirty and grimy look to them. And I'm going to keep doing that with this guy here. So first thing we're going to do is clip this big tab off his base. We want to get to where just his feet are going to be sticking on the ground. So we will clip these off. Got to be kind of careful so that you don't take off the bottom of his feet. So you just kind of slowly, sometimes it just comes off. So I've dug out a couple pieces that I want to use for the base here. Just a couple pieces of, I don't know, just scrap metal that would be laying around, and some tube. I'm going to use that as a pipe. And what happened was, when I was cutting the tab off his feet here, this foot kind of got bent around a little bit, just from cutting the tab off. But I'm going to use that happy accident, and we're going to kind of situate the base, the items on the base like that, and use his foot up to kind of be standing on that pipe there. We'll have to dig it down to be a little bit, more into the base. The other important thing for the base is I need to have a place to present the three skulls that are going on the bottom there.
And because this base is so small, I need to use this metal piece here to kind of give him a little bit more platform to stand on, to give space in the base for the demon and the mutant and the demon skulls. So we're going to do that. So first thing is going to be, need to nick up this metal piece here a little bit, and we need to shave this pipe down and cut it so that it fits on the base. Okay, so there's those two pieces attached to the base, and got our guy in a good position to stand on it. So next thing, of course, just like we did with the arms and the backpack, we're going to pin his foot to the base so that he'll stay on nice and strong. Same procedure, take your pin vise, and we're going to drill up through his foot and insert a pin there, and then right down through the base where he's going to be standing. So there he is attached to his base. I took the time also to shave off the excess parts of the pipe that were hanging over the edges. That's just a personal preference. I left this metal piece here that he's standing on this side. I did let that overhang the base, but I prefer if you have something like tubes or like wires hanging off, or resting on the bottom of the base there, that they kind of are flush with this side. Total personal preference, but that's how I prefer it. So next thing to do, there's two trains of thought when you're working with bases. One is that you treat it as a completely separate item from the figure itself. You paint it separately, you texture it separately. In this case, I'm not going to be doing that because I want him to feel more like he's part of the base. And if you see on some of the other ones that I've done here, might be kind of hard to see, but there's the texture from the base kind of goes up into their boots, into their shoes. It gives it makes them much more a part of the base that they're standing on, rather than just like they're standing on a platform. So what we need to do here, I think he's just about ready to assemble, and then we can figure out where these skulls are going and get the texture put on the base. Alright, so there's our arrangement of the skulls on the base. I think that's a good way to really highlight each of them. So the next thing we need to do is make the gunk that kind of makes up the dirt and the grime that goes on the base. And there's 4 ingredients that I'm using. I guess technically 5. The first is this mixture of really fine sand and some slightly larger rocks. It's typically like railroad ballast that's used in model railroads. It would be the stuff that you like pour between the tracks, the wooden ties on the tracks, so that they aren't just standing on top of the earth, to simulate that rocky look that they have. So there's a little bit of that. Oh, all of these the amounts that I'm using, totally made up each time. So there's no straight recipe. It's just kind of mix it until it feels good, and it will kind of go onto the base and all that kind of stuff. So then we're going to put in this ultra fine paste that we've got here. This is to simulate kind of mud and silt and that kind of stuff. So we'll put a little bit of that in there. Just go like this. May have to add more of any of these, so who knows, we'll see. Next is a little bit of glue, just plain white glue, no big deal there. And this is to help it all stick. That's probably good. And then to make it mixable, you need a little bit of water, but not too much, otherwise you're going to lose the viscosity of it, which is the whole idea. So let's mix it and see what we got here, and see if we need to change some of the other ingredients, change them around, change the proportions here. Because you want to be able to kind of paint it on, but you want it to stick when you do. You don't want it to be flowing too much like water or anything like that. And I really want to get all 3 of those kind of textures if possible, but sometimes it's not possible. So I think, yeah, I think that's going to be okay, actually. We can always go back and fix it if we need to. So, oh, pro tip, when you are doing this kind of stuff, you want to be using an old brush that is, you know, of no use for anything. You wouldn't want to try to paint anything with this brush. This is purely for doing this kind of rough texture-y, gunky stuff. So, next thing, I'm going to paint it, make sure I get it into all these crevices here on the base, and kind of give a little bit of just texture to the whole thing. Get some around his boots, so it looks like he's kind of walking through all this stuff as he goes. So, get started here. And it's gonna, when it dries, it's gonna shrink down, so you want to use a little bit more than you think you need. Kind of build it up in some places more than others, sort of where it would kind of naturally sit if this were a naturally occurring, you know, muck bed or whatever you want to call it. Okay, let's see. Get some back here around the back of his foot. Get some sitting on top here. Don't have to be too clean. That's the idea. We don't want to be clean, in fact. I want this to be really mucky and gross. Alright. And now we can take these skulls here and start to kind of place them in where we had them before. So, and again, they don't have to be too neat because we're going to gunk them up after we're done with this anyway. So, that's pretty good. I'm going to add just a little bit more, just like we were doing with his feet. Kind of want these skulls to be a part of the base that they're sitting in. I don't want them just to be sitting on top of the stuff. You want them to be really mushed in there with everything. Okay, here's the final kind of layer of gunk on the base and around his feet. Really kind of mushed him into it. Put some on the bottom of his jacket too, because if you're trudging around in this kind of sludge, you're not going to end up clean coming out of that. It's going to be all over the place. So we've got to leave it for now. We can come back when it's dry and see if there's some places that we want to add some more texture to the base, or if it's good. But can't do that until it dries and all that water clears out. So we'll be back for that later. I went through and checked the base after it had dried and was happy with how the gunk and the goo and the grime looked on it. So was able to glue the arms and the backpack on because we didn't need to add anything else to the base. So very happy with how this guy's turned out, and he is just about done.
So that's it for this entry. Gotta let some glue dry. The next step is to prime him up and paint him, but that's another entry, so we'll get to that next time. Thanks for watching. You can follow the blog at adeptusarcanum.blogspot.com, or subscribe to this YouTube channel, and thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.